We are back for part 2 of our interview with Ginny Eldredge for the Eastham Historical Society's Oral History Project. The date is March 10th, 2023, and we are in Ginny's living room at the Woodlands in Brewster. The interviewers are Rick Lindholm and Marca Daley. I want to switch gears a little bit and go back even further.
Yeah.
Because we have a sailor's valentine
Yes.
at the museum that you donated
Yes.
back in 1967, I think, or 65.
Something.
And your grandfather brought that back from a trip. Tell us about your grandfather.
Well, my grandfather, William Bradley Steele, was a very sick young man. And when he was 9 years old, his mother decided that he should, well, the doctor at the time said he wasn't going to live. He wasn't going to live because I don't know whether they called it consumption or what they called it, but he had difficulty breathing, so he wasn't going to live very long. And his father was a sea captain out of Gloucester. And so my grandfather went to sea at 9 years old, and gradually, as he got older, cabin boy to seaman, whatever they called him. And when he was 26 years old, well, that was his last trip, but before that they would go all over the place. And he picked this, what do we call it, Valentine?
Sailor's Valentine.
He picked that up in one of his trips. I don't know whether it was whether they were in the Orient or where they were, but he picked that up and he brought it back, and I inherited it when he, well, I guess when my father passed away or something, and but when his last trip, he was one of, I think, 32 ships that went out to sea. Off the way out, off the Grand Banks, there was Grand Banks. There was a terrific hurricane-type storm.
Oh, wow.
All of the ships that went out, I'm not positive about the number. It could have been 28, but whatever the number was, every single one except his ship foundered and sank and lost all hands.
Oh my God.
His ship lost its steering rudder, whatever, they didn't have power or anything back then, and somebody else, some other ship saw them and towed them into Gloucester, and that was my grandfather's last trip to sea.
Wow.
I mean, but for the grace of God, his ship would have gone down too. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather Steele was Ricky's grandfather or great-grandfather's brother. I have a picture of Grandpa's sister, who was Nellie.
Yeah, that
and
was
her brother was Harry.
my great-grandfather.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was my grandmother's brother.
Yeah.
There was Nellie. Nellie was the...
We have a difference in generations.
Right.
Is what it
Yeah,
is.
That's like
Nellie-
my mom and her family.
Nellie-
Okay.
Generation.
Nellie was the first.
Mm-hmm.
Harry was the second. And Blanche was the third. Blanche was my grandmother.
Oh, wait a minute.
Harry was your mother's grandfather.
Right, right.
Yeah, we're straight. Yeah.
Yep, you're
We
right.
won't get into that. It's too confusing.
Wow. I want to ask you about entertainment. And I'm curious about dances in particular. So I remember you when the WSCS, the firemen, the police would sponsor the record hops.
Yeah.
And you used to sit out and take the
Well,
tickets and.
The record hops were always held at the town hall.
Right,
Yeah.
And also across then, the square dances.
Oh, yeah.
Talk,
But
talk
we
a little
learned
about them.
We learned square dancing in grammar school. We learned in grammar
Mhm.
school, so in the school that's there now, which I walked to when second grade.
February 1st, 1937.
Yeah.
You guys packed up your
Yeah.
books.
Walked up the hill to, yeah.
Right.
And that was small compared to what it is now. It's
Mhm.
huge now, so.
Yeah.
But we did square dancing. The boys used to make ice cream. Oh God, was that ice cream good.
How did they do that?
Well, they had the wooden bins, and they'd put ice in it, and then they'd stand and crank for hours, it seemed like. We'd always do that at Valentine's Day. Oh boy.
What other kind of traditions did you have growing up? Any holiday traditions?
We celebrated Washington's birthday, we celebrated Lincoln's birthday. Now there's so many more that I can't even remember now, but yeah. I remember when I was in 7th grade, 6th grade, the pond down behind the school, for some reason, there used to be a den of, I guess they called it a den, of black snakes. And I can remember the Hayes boys who were, Tommy was in my class, but Bill and Tom would go down and get those black snakes and come up, and they'd wrap them around their necks and scare the living daylights out of the girls. Oh dear. My son David is going out to visit Bobby, young Bobby, and his wife on the 22nd. I think they're living in Arizona. The young people sometimes, I count you guys, keep in contact with friends that were classmates or friends of friends. So anyway.
How about you and your classmates? Did you ever go to any of the reunions?
Oh yeah,
they had at
went to a lot of them. The last reunion I went to, I think, was my 60th. I just got word this year that when I started school, the first grade, there were 5 of us. Well, actually, there were 6, but one boy cried constantly the first 2 weeks, so Florence Keith, our teacher, decided he needed to wait another year. So that left 5 of us. There was Frances Brown, and there was Maud Chase, there was Leonard Brewer, there was Harry Hopkins, and me. And Maud died a number of years ago. Well, all 4 of them died. Harry's wife called me this summer, and Harry had passed away. So we were the last. They were the last of. I'm the last of the original 5.
Right.
When I graduated from 12th grade, from 8th grade, there were 12 of us. Different ones had stayed back or come to Eastham, but I don't know how many people there are in Eastham that were actually born there. A lot have moved there.
Right. Were you a
Yeah.
good student?
Huh?
Were you a good student?
I think so. I loved school. I really did. I got very good grades in school. I was trying to remember who. I know Joe Putnam came, and I used to pick blueberries for his father. Oh God, they were good. We got 5 cents a pint for picking. However, they had to be full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe came, and there were others too.
Now, where'd he come from?
I don't know where Joe came from. I don't know. Kenny Collins, he was one that came. His mother, Abby Collins, Bernard Collins' wife, Abby was Otto Nicholson's sister,
Right.
and they came, and he joined sometime during that period.
Did you know another Collins family in Eastham on Nauset Road? He used to have a bookstore in that house.
Yeah,
that
I
old
do
house.
remember. I don't know what the relationship was. I
Well, my
don't.
great-grandmother was adopted by that
Oh, really?
family. But,
I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
don't know what the connection was with. Now Bernard Collins had a brother Louis, and he lived right across the street from Cove Landing.
okay.
But Bernard Collins and Ken Collins were Bernie Collins's kids. Bernie Jr. became a teacher at Nauset years later.
Industrial arts,
Yeah, I
right?
had him.
Well, he's younger than, well, who knows? Yeah, who knows? A lot of my classmates from Orleans High School have passed away,
Yeah.
so.
When you were at Eastham Elementary, they had a really strong music program.
Yeah,
Were you involved in that?
yes, I was, and it was Eastham Grammar School
Right.
then.
Yes.
Yeah, Thomas Nassy, he needed a tall person to play the bass viol. I was the 4th grade, I was the tallest person, so I got the job. And he taught me how to play.
Oh, wow.
And I kept it up all through high school. Became, we had a Lower Cape Symphony. I was good enough to play in that. And we traveled all over Massachusetts to different places to view. We went to the New York, what's this, I can't think of it. But we traveled to listen and meet with professional violinists,
Wow.
saxophonists, bass violists. To this day, if I hear an orchestra, I don't have to see it, but I can hear the bass viol. I loved it. I played in high school. I played in the orchestra. We had a strong chorus. I sang. Then when I got married and had kids, and I joined the Methodist Church in Eastham, the first 10 years, and I think it was your class was the first one. I taught, no, maybe Helene McNeil taught you in the 2nd grade. And then she retired, and she turned it over to me for some reason.
It's Sunday school.
Well, so I taught 2nd grade for 10 years,
Wow.
and then all my kids got through that age bracket. And then I joined the choir, and I sang in the choir for 44 years.
We sang together.
Yeah, I remember when you children were in the carol choir. Oh God! And then when Jody Quill, her son Kevin was in the carol choir years later, and I can remember them singing, "My name is Kevin. I love the Lord." I loved the choir. I sang in Wellfleet in the Cantoras a cappella.
Ginny, somebody's at the door. How about sports when you were a girl? Were there any sports?
Oh yeah, there was
Yeah.
basketball, there was hockey, field hockey. The girls didn't play, I don't remember us playing softball. Now they do, but
Did you go ice skating in the winters?
I went ice skating on a pond. It was right near my, the Eldredge family's house, and Irene and I were friends. She was a year younger, and we'd go to skate on the pond at night, make little little fires, you know, roast marshmallows. And
Did you get a permit?
we didn't have all that kind of stuff then. But then when I was in high school, the Orleans, the Cranberry Bog across from the Orleans Inn, where the parking lot is now for the Stop and Shop, that would freeze over. They'd flood the Cranberry Bog,
Yeah.
and we'd skate there, and that was great. But there were no professional ones when I was a kid.
Yeah, no.
But baseball, basketball was, the girls had a basketball team in high school. And I wasn't great. I hurt myself playing one time, so I became the manager. It was safer. And there were other kids that were really good, so, but
Didn't they have a roller skate rink in Howard?
they might have, I didn't go.
No, you never got to that.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have access to wheels. My mother didn't drive, and so I never went out of town. And I didn't get my license until I was, oh gosh. Well, David, my son, was 2 years old when I got my license, so we didn't do that then.
Right.
You know, if you had a bicycle, that was adequate.
I remember my grandmother getting her license. Adela?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah.
What's the biggest change that you've noticed from growing up? Because you've lived here your whole life.
Yeah. The life I had was, as a child, was, of course I had nothing to compare it with, but I loved my life. I loved school. I read. Oh, I remember, I probably was in second grade, maybe, I don't think first grade, but I think in second grade, Uncle Nate would drive the kids to the library, and we would pick out a couple of books, the Nancy Drew and all the children's books, and twice a week, I think, Friday and Monday, we'd either pick up or return. And I loved to read. So when I wasn't playing outside, you know, just playing, didn't have a lot of toys, we were poor. we didn't know we were poor because everybody was in the same boat.
Right.
But,
Do you remember your first television?
oh good Lord, my first television was a second-hand one from my father when he got a newer one. I didn't have a TV until, well, I remember going to my mother's, this was when I was married, going to my mother's one morning bright and early to watch television to see Queen Elizabeth, either her
Coronation.
wedding or one of them, coronation.
Wow. That was 52.
Okay, that's in that area. So it was after that, and I think my father got a color television and he gave me his old. My father, my house back then, I think my husband, I think he made something like $35 a week working on the power lines, lineman. He was both a lineman for the power company or a fisherman, depending on the weather.
Right.
And things are so different. Things are so different. But I didn't have a lot of new furniture. I called my living room that I was, my furniture was early dump. My father would buy new furniture, you know, he was doing all right. And he'd come by my house, do you want this or not? I'm going to take it to the, and it was always in good condition. So, when I was a kid, you didn't have brand new. You might buy a piece that you needed because something collapsed. But I bought this year
That's
just so I
nice.
can get up when I
It's
need to.
comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts, Ginny?
I just think that for my growing up years, my time on this earth, I could not have been in a better place than Eastham, Massachusetts. I never left here, never left Eastham until I came here 7 years ago.
Right.
And it's surprising how quickly you become friends with people. I discovered when I came here, and Laurie went on, my daughter went on, took DNA testing, found out that on my mother's side of the family, I'd always been told that I was related to Benjamin Franklin's parents. And he became an uncle because he wasn't a direct ancestor, but his parents were. And she's since found out that my mother's family, Moulton, goes back to William the Conqueror in the year 1000 something.
Right.
And one of our residents has the same DNA and goes back to William the Conqueror, and our driver goes back. So I've got relatives. Now they're even farther back than the Turners and the.
Wow.
It's crazy.
It really is.
It really is. Anyway,
Ginny, thank you so much for just sharing all
I
of
have
these
forgotten
ideas.
more than I remember.
You did good.
I think I'll come back and take a look at your photo albums.
I wish you would, because I have got pictures. I don't know whether that green one that's on the top there has got some of the. I've saved some of the pictures that the Cape Cod 5 has put out, and one of it is of that space between Route 6 and Massasoit.
Oh.
Nothing there. The trees now have taken over.
Yes. Okay, well, I'm going to turn off the camera.
Okay.
And thank you very, very much.
Excellent.